one-way pravachan, you have to kind of do a lot of things. And that's why the sheet has been given to you. What I would expect and what is expected and in fact required, that for each lecture you fill in each one side. So, for the first lecture, which is on the powerhouse and pull, you're going to fill the first side. All you have to do is to make some sketch notes. Right? You know what are sketch notes? Do you know? It's okay, no problem. You know how to sketch? Right? You know how to make notes? Right? So you have to make notes by sketching. You have to write minimal things, but sketch maximum things. Whatever comes to your mind. And these sketches could be diagrams, they could be illustrations, they could be flowcharts, they could be relationship, like some figures. It is up to you how you see it. And also it can have a bit of text also. Okay? So please keep your hands engaged. It's remember that this lecture will require you to fill only one side, and in the next half, we are going to fill the other side. And I hope that you receive the message of this colors and all. And I hope that you brought in your colors. Or you can just borrow to some of your friends and all, like they are ready to share. Front and back. Okay, so okay, so Anshul is suggesting that he wants everyone to. Right. I mean, no, but I want you to fill in those spaces. I know it's very difficult. Okay, so I'm reducing your work. Just fold the sheet into half, right? One side you use it for one lecture, and the other half you use it for the next lecture. I also understand that many of your sheets are a bit thin, so I think, but now when you have this one A4 size, it is mandatory that you really use the space, right? And should you need more, I think we have a lot of sheets here also. The sheets are not the problem. No, sheets are not the problem, you just fill. You just fill that into whatever is required. So do you have Garba plans today?
Yes.
What time you want to go there?
6.
Oh, I thought 2 o'clock you want to go there. Let's talk about realistic things. Okay.
5.
I am not a subject seller who is going to negotiate with you. So it's up to you. I mean, if you do more work, I'm going to make you money. Right?
Yes.
So it's up to your enthusiasm. So we have one lecture now, and then there's another lecture, and both are mandated to attend because I'm going to evaluate your notes. I mean, that's been told to me. A significant amount of marks are also allocated for this. So I'm going to kind of recapitulate. I mean, this is like a retake on Bauhaus and Bull. How many of you know about these two institutions? Bauhaus and Bull. Bauhaus. You don't know about Bauhaus? No? Okay, I mean, can you see this illustration? Okay, can you guess the year of this illustration? Which year was it? Which year was it? Just give me a
1920s. 1920s.
1920s? 1800s? Give me a random, just like a 1901, okay? Anyone else? Come on. बोलने को है, 4 लेकर बोलने को 1880. Actually, 1880 is the right term. And you can see that what were the kind of products that people had in the euro. Okay, so this is the Eurocentric lecture. I'm going to talk about what were the things there in the euro. And what are the things that you can see here? So what is this? Jug. This? Pan. Okay. What is this? Funnel, yes. For what? Oil for what? Some machines. Okay, this. Perfume. Okay. So, how many of them are made of plastic? So, some of the materials that you can see there right now, I mean, other than this blue screen. What would the material? Like leather is one, the other? Glass. Aluminium. What else? Cast iron. Do we see these materials these days also? Look at your shoes. Are you wearing a leather shoe? How many of you are wearing leather shoe? Just look at your shoes. What material is it? Fabric. What else? Rubber. What material is your shoe? Just a check. What's the material of your shoe or foot? Plastics. How many of you are wearing Crocs? Anyone wearing Crocs? Okay. So what material is Crocs? What material is clocks? Plastic, some rubber or something. So actually clocks is a material which was used for, like, making fishing shoes or like diving shoes. So they use a lot while they were using it on the water. So this is a sketch from 1880s and it represents some of the material culture then or some of the lifestyle then. And just to kind of give you a recapitulation, everyone remember Renaissance period? That is 15th century and all, and this was the time when this idea of modernity, that we should look for scientific methods or science in our everyday life beyond religion. We should integrate the scientific things came in, and this was a time of great discoveries like Leonardo was there. And then you must have covered up it in the art history. Have you been taught a bit of art history? Right? And then there were different revolutions. So what was the first revolution? Post-Renaissance. Have you heard of this term revolution? So what was the first revolution? Or what? I mean, like any revolution that you know. Art Deco, okay, but Art Deco is not a revolution, it's a style.
French Revolution.
French Revolution, that was a political revolution. So we are talking about design and technology revolutions. Anyone studying history? Industrial revolution, okay, that's one of the revolutions. What else? Dadaism is still one of the movements or style. Any other revolution than industrial revolution? Right, okay, no problem. So, one of the first revolution was actually led by the mobility. Mobility across continents. So, colonialism was actually the first revolution in a sense. And it was empowered by the movement through the water between the continents. So the Portuguese could come to India, the Britishers could come to India, or Britishers or the invaders could go to the US, now US, or any other country, capture the land and like loot or whatever. Right? So that was the first revolution in the world. And this only happened because there was a huge improvement in mobility on water or the navigation. Second revolution, which our friend mentioned here, was industrial revolution. And what was the industrial revolution? Mass production is a bit later, yes, but you're right in a way. So industrial revolution has a lot of things. First thing first is that one of the things which is also a stream here, which are your other friends, communication design. Printing press was invented. The moment printing press was invented, what happened? Mass communication of the ideas. So now the ideas were not limited to just one geography or some oral traditions or limited handwritten text. Now they could travel all over the world. And one of the first things which was mass produced and mass communicated was any text which any wild guess? Bible, yes, absolutely right. So Bible was the first like a mass produced book to be propagated to the world. Right? Another part or another innovation in industrial revolution was textile technology, or let's call it spinning jenny, right? Or looms, power looms. So now the textile was not dependent on handicraft or someone is going to kind of make like some textiles that people are going to wear. No. Now they could make at any scale. And all of these textiles were made or majorly kind of planted in cities of England. Cities like Liverpool, Manchester, which are now the famous clubs, actually were textile hubs. In India, one of the major textile hubs was Ahmedabad in the west and also Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh. Okay? So these two were like kind of industrial cities of India, major textile hubs. Another innovation during the Industrial Revolution was steam engine. And what steam engine did, it allowed people to move inland at a faster speed. So now you could wear your chachi mosi anytime. Just take a train and then go to another city and then just visit them. Right? So this is just a backdrop of Industrial Revolution. There were so many other things in communication, mobility, and production of textiles. And also there were Industrial Revolution in sciences. Now they were making vaccines at the larger scales. So many diseases which were there in 18th century or 17th century are not there now, thankfully. Okay, so there were progress made in all sections of society. Some of them we might call it as within the formal gambit of design, but many of them were led by small little innovations like steam engine, spinning jenny, and so on. Third revolution was, which was the third revolution after Industrial Revolution. What happened later?
ऊपर देखो सब लोग क्या देख रहे हैं?
सीलिंग से नीचे क्या है? Light. Electricity. Have you heard of this name, Nicholas Tesla? And this guy known as Thomas Alva Edison. So what did Edison do? क्या किया था एडिसन ने? Light bulb invent किया. So what did the light bulb do in our society? Yes, of course, it replaces the gas lights and all. But what's the other significance on the human condition? Any idea? Come on, light bulb ने क्या किया बताओ? Absolutely right. It allowed or it doubled our productivity. So now we are not dependent on the sun, which is also very scanty, like especially in the Western countries. But now we have a light bulb which allowed us to work for longest period of time. Now you can also work in the evening. Even after playing Garba, you can just come back, switch on the lights and just work, right? And so on. One of the other things which electricity revolution did is one guy who invented something, and name of the guy is Otis. So what did Otis invent? Where have you seen Otis? Escalators. Not elevators. Not the escalators, but elevators. So what the elevators did to the buildings? Height increase. So now you have the cities, very much like one of the example city is Chicago. So now the cities are not horizontal. Now the cities are vertical. You can make vertical buildings. You can fit in more people. You can ask them to live together, right? And this is what the three revolutions were post pre-modernism. Within this continuity we had designed. I'm not covering that today in the lecture, but I just wanted you to have this understanding of geographical revolution, industrial revolution, and the electricity revolution. There's another revolution which we are part of right now. What is that? Internet or the information revolution. You are still seeing towards the end part of it. I am part of that. My generation is part of that information revolution. We are we have seen that when Indian started using or started making email accounts, right? So this is one particular like the work in or the school known as Deutsche Werkbund in Germany in early 1900s or early 20th century, where all the different art forms and craft forms, they consolidated, they came together, and they decided that they're going to mass produce it. So our friend used the word mass production here, and this is where what modern design was about. That it is not just craft, it is not just like the individual brilliance. We are going to fill in human life with lot of new products, and these new products are going to be based on the idea of mass production, right? You may use all your sheet. I mean, we can give another sheet. Please don't hesitate to sketch. Okay. Right. So this is one designer. Now we have this product designer, experience designer, graphic designer. Just look at this, 3 pieces of design. This is done by only one person. That is Peter Behrens. He designed the logo also. He designed this particular fan also. He designed this kettle also. Interestingly, he designed the building also of this factory. So he designed the factory also. So all in one kind of designers or architects, who would do everything. So architects, designers, they were one. I mean, they were not different. I mean, they would design cities also, they would design building also, they would design products also and posters also. And then came the late, the post World War II differentiation, that this is communication design, this is product design, and which you are now subscribed. So this is all product design, I believe.
Yes.
All product design, and some of the master students. Okay, they are not yet here. Okay. So we'll talk about the first design school or the first architecture school in the modern times, and that is Bauhaus. So Bauhaus actually means that to make or to build, right? And it's a German expression of the art of the building, right? So if you look at the history of it, I mean the Deutsche Werkbund, I mean the craft unit, which I showed earlier in the slide. So there was this consolidation during this particular time, 1906, and then there was this white space. And what happened in this white space between 1906 and 1990? Anyone? Yes, World War One. World War One. Who said it? World War? Yeah. World War One happened during this particular time. So what happens in a war, in a world war? What happens? What happens to society in a war? So a lot of destruction, right? And you need to kind of come together or come back together and rebuild. And how do you rebuild? Through institutions, through individuals, through communities. So this was I'm trying to highlight a role of a design school. So school was the Academy of Artists from Stanley Bauhaus, with God Walter Gropius as the director. And the Gropius, or the director, as you have Bhaskar here, his mantra was simple, that we have to fuse art with technology. It cannot be just art for the art's sake. We have to integrate technology with art, and this technology will allow us to take art to the people, right? And this will allow us to provide good things to the common people who are not able to afford art otherwise. So design is very, very democratic in that sense. Right? You can see it's a kind of philosophy or pedagogical principles in the circle. You can see that there are different materials like metal, and then making glass, and so on. And they said that they are going to explore all the materials. They are going to make things there, including ceramics, or posters, everything, and then they are going to do, or then they are going to make things which are really, really useful for society. Right? Bauhaus was also a hub or residency for many contemporary artists, especially the modern artists like Paul Klee or Vasily Kandinsky or Laszlo Moholy-Nagy. So these artists were not just staying there, and they were also kind of requested to teach. So they called a lot of kind of people in their academy or in their city, and then they said, it would be great if you can teach our students, right? So one of the larger kind of ambition or larger objective of Bauhaus was also to do architecture. And what in architecture? Majorly social housing. So how they can make houses for the common people, which are affordable, which are extremely kind of simple, but really, really robust and good, and how they can kind of help the society through that. So the idea was simple. They were not necessarily, they didn't want to follow the classical architecture, as you could see in the old Roman architecture or neoclassical architecture. What they would do, they said that we'll follow the geometry. We'll take the purest form of geometry and try to make forms through that. Right? So whether in building or whether in products, we are going to follow the geometry, we are going to follow the principles of design, the visual design. So in 1925, Bauhaus shifted to Dessau in a building designed by Gropius. Earlier it was in Weimar, and Dessau and Weimar, they both are in Eastern Germany. Earlier it was East Germany. It is in Eastern Germany, very near to Berlin. Okay. And this is what, Bauhaus looks like. These photos are from my visit in 2010. So I was lucky to visit this particular building in 2010, and actually I found it very much like Anand, your university. There's a building, there's a unit there. So same spirit is there. That this is the student housing. Thank you. And this particular side is the administration side, right? And there's also one interesting form. What do you call this? What do you call this space? What do you call this? So there's a bridge. There's a bridge, and the car can go through this. What do you call this? Underpass. What else? Subway? No. Have you seen this kind of thing anywhere? In any building? देखा है कभी? So this particular thing is known as driveway. And why it is important? Because all the buildings earlier you would see will not have any driveway. So it means that this building is also designed keeping cars in mind. Okay, so there's another kind of mobility that they consider, that people also travel in car. So why can't we have a building which goes over a road and car or a fire brigade can just pass through? Right? So this is a characteristic feature of many government buildings in India. But this is one of the first kind of examples, right? The facade that you're seeing here, this particular slide, is actually a reconstructed facade. The facade was burnt during the Nazi period. Everyone knows what is Nazi period?
Yes.
Everyone knows what is Nazi period?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone knows what Hitler did to society? Thank God. So design principles or making principles were very, very simple. They'll have the flat roofs, smooth facades, and mostly cubic shapes. Right? So they love cubes. Architects love cubes. And the colors were simple. They were white, grey, beige, or black. Floor plans were very, very simple, very open floor plan, just like this university. That you can work anywhere, you can sit anywhere. There are no dedicated spaces for each of the students, right? You can go anywhere, you can work in the lab or you can work in the studio. Pedagogy was very simple. They had the foundation course. You are also had a foundation course. So what was part of foundation?
Visualization and representation, where we learn the explore different materials. Then technical drawing, where we learn measurements like proportion and everything. Then theory, where we learn color theory, and then we are learn to like more on like form. Then we are issues was like separated according to discipline. So we learn like technical drawing according to product design and was.
Thank you. So basically, what's your name? Anusha. What Anusha explained is a very synthesized form of what started in Bauhaus. Okay. So why we are studying Bauhaus? Because that was the first time when in any design academy this was done. Okay. So all the students were expected or required to attend fundamental design skills, and they were also kind of required to understand this a bit of technology of design, a bit of science of design. That you know why, and science of design would be like color theory. What happens when you kind of say when you make color palette or when you kind of put it together? Or science of design could be understanding how materials behave or what you can do with the materials, right? So that's the two ways. Inventive building and observation discovery. I mean, this is a larger philosophy. And then inductive method. So they would start with one thing, and then they will kind of add few more skills around that path. So it's not like that you have to learn everything. You just start with something and then you try to build around whatever you want to learn. And then you theorize. First you make, first you understand how material behave, how design is kind of done, and then you theorize. Then you say, okay, this is what design is, or this is what design can do. So there are three phases of Bauhaus, like any design school. The first phase of the Bauhaus was initiation, because there were no design teachers, there were no designers. So this was the first time when they were making a design or designer architect. So there were two people. One was technologist and the other was artist. So artist is very simple. Some of the literary from that particular time, like Candace Cake or Paul Klee or Mohilinaj, which I have already mentioned. But there were also technologists. So who were the technologists of that period? Any idea? Who could be technologists of that particular period? So when we say technology these days, so what are your thoughts? What do you think of technology? What is technology today?
Basically, technology for me is like computers, AI technology.
Wait. Okay. What is technology today? What are the examples of technology?
AI.
So thank you, Anand. So today when we talk about technology, it is AI. 10 years back or 20 years back, when we were talking about technology, it was coding, right? Before that, it was civil engineering, right? If you are able to make bridges or like long bridges, it was considered as technology. Technology in 20th century beginning was craft, what we call as craft. So craft actually is also technology, which the craftsman is doing. But this is very low tech. That's why we have this word like low tech and high tech. So AI is high tech and craft is low tech, but it is a technology. Right? There are certain technological principles which craftsman is following. And you can reflect on that. Like take any craft and there would be some kind of technology. Whether it's material technology, material science, or physics, or like mechanical engineering, you will find certain level of technology there. The second phase was consolidation. So now, I mean, they have learned like the basics and all. how do you consolidate? So I said that it was all about effective method of trial. So now they were making things which were useful society. Again, not compromising on the visual principles or the basic design principles. And you can see one of the examples of my Marine brand in 1926. I mean, this is a lamp which is still working with the same bulb since 1926. Right. So the bulb has not kind of, still it is working. Right.
Sir,
Yeah.
how
How?
is it working still?
Oh, so that's another story. So it's a bit of deviation. I would recommend you to watch this movie known as The Light Bulb Conspiracy. Please note it down, The Light Bulb Conspiracy. And just to give you a short kind of gist of that movie. Earlier, when the bulbs were invented, I mean, some of the earlier companies of bulb, have you heard of this company known as Osram or Sylvania? So there were many companies like Philips and so on, right? So they were selling bulbs, and they realized that people are not coming back to them. They realized that they have designed bulbs which are going to long last, so their life is infinity. और यूरोप में ऐसा नहीं होता कि इंडिया जैसी लाइट आती है कम वोल्टेज ये वोल्टेज ऐसा नहीं होता वहाँ पे, right? Even during the world wars, I mean, there would be electricity or no electricity. There is nothing like fluctuation and so on. So that's another thing. So in 1930, all the bulb manufacturers, they kind of sat down together and decided that we are going to limit the life of these bulbs. They said each bulb should not work more than 1,000 times. Okay? So they decided the bulbs that they were going to design are only going to be used 1,000 times or certain days, so that people come back to them today. Like otherwise, how they're going to grow? How they're going to do the business? It's not just one time kind of selling to them, right? So Light Bulb Conspiracy is one particular movie that you can see, and this is everywhere, right? You have a cell phone. So some of the oldest cell phone in your class, I mean, if you can, I mean, you guys are second year students, so थोड़ा नया ही लिया होगा, but कितना पुराना है? किसी का 2018 का फोन है? 2019 का किसी के पास? Okay, very nice. So you have any problem with that? Just phone. What would be the possible problem with the 2019 phone? Battery life? Storage? What else? Lag. Okay, 2020 का phone है किसी के पास? Okay, very nice. So I'm so proud of you that you have 4 phone. So I was very proud of my OnePlus 5 till a year back, and I was very proud that it's a 6-year-old phone. 5-year-old actually, 2017, and then till I met my colleague Gaurav Kar. I mean, he was faculty in IT, and he had OnePlus 1, which was like 10 years old phone. Right? It was working fine, absolutely fine. It's just that some of the updates, like Google made or any other feature, were not kind of compatible with his OS, operating system. Okay? So you look at any Apple, for example, it's made to last long, the hardware part. Right? But it will kind of make you think that you should change after 4 years or 5 years. Right? So this phenomena is known as planned obsolescence. If you are going to study sustainability in future, you have to study this phenomenon of planned obsolescence. So these companies, they plan that how can you get bored. Okay. Now let's look at some non-technological things. Like anyone from South here? Okay. So do your mother has collection of sarees?
Yes.
And many of these sarees would be some like 50 years old, 30 years old and all. So there is no planned obsolescence there, right? In fact, people celebrate if they wear some old sari. But just try to see yourself. I mean, like, what we are subscribing to these days is nothing but the fast fashion. So many of the clothes, I mean, does anyone has a clothes which is like 4-year-old or 5-year-old? Okay, so that's very good. I mean, I was not able to use because I have outgrown myself, so I had to buy them. But I'm so proud. Okay, I'm so proud that you are using some really old clothes, and sometimes you just want to kind of don't use them. You are emotionally kind of over upbranding your brand sector. But then again, if it's a timeless design, for example, if you have a white shirt, okay, it is timeless. Or a black shirt, it's timeless. Any shirt with a graphic and all, it has certain age. True? So that's a bit of obsolescence for you in a very short time. So light bulb conspiracy, guys. After Garba season, not Garba today, but Garba season, please look into this particular movie. Or maybe Anshul, can you take the responsibility of screening this movie? The light bulb conspiracy. You watched it? So, okay. Yes. So there are another examples like now planned obsolescence is also visible in the repair culture. So जब हम छोटे थे, so we could repair anything. Like we had this black and white TV. I don't know if you've seen black and white TV. Have you seen black and white TV?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe in a museum or your home, which is it working?
Yeah, my grandfather still uses it.
That's great. So we could repair anything. But these days, few days back, like my LCD, got broken. So the cost of LCD was around 30,000 or 32,000. And I thought, okay, let me get the screen replaced. The cost of the screen was 29,000. Right? So I don't know what to do. Whether to go for a new television which is available at 22,000. Okay. So the television is cheaper than the component. So naturally, this whole ecosystem is extremely unsustainable. And we as designers, especially product designers, I'm told that you are product designers. You are product designer? Are you going to work? It is a specialization that you have chosen. Right? Okay, let's talk about the final phase. So the final phase was not just about making, it is also about learning new things like economics, psychology, sociology. And I'm sure that you are also learning all these things, like history, right now you're learning. Okay? So some of the things other than design, or some of the things which will allow you to think what we can design, or how we can design, or why should we design. These were some of the subjects which were taught at Bauhaus. Unfortunately, with Hitler's rise, the school closed in 1932, sorry. I'm in 22 here, 32. So some of the products of Bauhaus, we look at it, they are really basic. And the aim was integrating all the artistic genres under the primary of architecture. Right? So, you have an architecture school there? Here? Do you have an architecture school? Do you have friends from there?
Yes.
Okay. So they often think that design comes under them. Okay. Design is part of architecture, and it's very natural because Bauhaus school has taught them like that. And a very famous dictum came from this particular school that architecture is mother of all arts. And they say that baap baap hota hai. Right. So they will consider them as like very paternal, and they'll say कि ये तुम तो सब हमारे बच्चे हो, we are like the granddaddy, but they're not wrong actually. Okay, but you can introduce them to their baap, which is civil engineering. So earlier there was no difference between the civil engineering and architecture. Like no architects were there, but they were also civil engineers. These divisions are very basic. Okay. Now when you graduate, like when I graduated, there was no term like experience designer. Now we have a term like experience designer. When you guys graduate, there might be a term AI designer. Right now it is not. Right? So historically they have been taught. They are very motherly, they are very fatherly because of Bohas. Aligning aesthetic production with the needs of general population. So whatever they are going to design, or whatever you are going to design in the school has to address the masses. And still that dictum is being followed, and I was talking to Master, and still the school follows the same principle. Yes, sir. This was after World War I. Very interesting that why they decided to make things which look good. Actually, aesthetics was part of the culture. So anything if they make non-aesthetical things, it will be undesirable. So even if you make, let's say, very useful things, people are not going to buy it. So that's another part of it. And that's why they said that they are not going to look into the ornamentation. Okay, so none of these designs are ornamented. They are very basic. And why they are very basic? Because they follow very basic design principles such as geometry. Okay, or the purest form they will follow. Right? So these things. And what are the tenets of modernity or like a modern design? Like stackability. So if you are designing a chair, the chair has to be stackable. Then only it's going to be like really successful in terms of mass production. Most of the plastic chairs are stackable. Right? If something is not stackable, it becomes a burden. And why do we need stackability? Space. The sizes of our own homes have kind of shrunken. You would also think that in Facebook or you guys would use Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or wherever, you would find a lot of videos which talk about the space saving furniture. Right? Like something which is like an almirah, which becomes like a bed in the night. Right? Or it becomes a table. Right? And this kind of excites you. Like though it's very basic, but how the basic mechanics you can create new forms within a room. And this is where a collaboration between a product designer and interior designer can happen. Interior designer or architect, they might think but I don't think they can do it without the expertise or this sense of product design, right? And you also need that because you have to understand the sense of space too. There is one thing here also. Did you see that latch? So some of the influences, some of the features of Bohas was art and technology brought in a new design culture. So you were saying why they are not making So but any designer would not make ugly things consciously. In fact, if you have learned design, it's very difficult to design ugly things. If I give you an assignment, design an ugly thing, it's very difficult to design an ugly thing also. You might design a very mediocre thing, but not very ugly. Try designing an ugly chair or ugly bottle. It's very difficult to design material. Right? Then, functional analysis for any design was essential. Everything that you're going to design has to be functionally working. They had a scientific attitude towards making forms. So they were not just following the tradition, but also the science, like I said, understanding of the materials, understanding of the geometry, understanding of the form, understanding of how the materials are fused together. Mental imagery is also design. So like I mentioned about sketching, right? Again, the resources were very, very scarce. They were not available, like at your disposal, just like that. So you had to design or you had to visualize a lot of things that you are going to design further, right? And this is why sketching is taught to you guys. So that you do hundreds of iterations, especially the product designers, and then you choose one particular option or two particular options to develop further. Isn't it? Have you seen this with your seniors? That they make like an amazing number of iterations that the faculty comes and says, isko karo, isko aage badhao. Right? And this is why it is done. Then, consumer culture of mass production. So anything that they have to make, it has to be multiplied into numbers. Right? So when we were kids, we were designing one thing. I don't know if you designed or not, greeting cards. Did you design greeting cards?
Yes.
So how can you kind of mass produce the process of greeting cards? Anyone? So for example, if you have to design greeting cards for Teachers' Day for the school year, and there's an organizing committee, let's say this particular group or that particular group, how would you do it? So stencil, very nice. And what is stencil? Stencil is a technology. Okay? Stencil is a very basic technology. Very nice. What else would you do?
Create an assembly line.
Absolutely. So one person will say that I just only fold. Okay? The other person will say that I'll only cut. Okay? And the third person is going to say I'm only going to draw. And the third and the fourth girl is going to say I'm only going to write with thanks. Okay? Another person says I'll write the custom message. Or there will be 2-3 people. So this is how the modern day manufacturing works. Okay? Things are done in assembly lines, in isolation, and there's also a thing known as alienation. That you do not know the person who paints the car in a factory. He doesn't know how to fix a seat. Right? So these all activities, if you divide all the design manufacturing processes in a factory, these are isolated. And this created a certain sense of what? Alienation. Right? And this phenomena, what he mentioned as assembly line phenomena, is known as Fordism. Have you heard of Ford? Okay. So based on their principles of design, Fordism, Henry Ford. Again, you must inquire what is Fordism.
Ford introduced the concept of assembly line, but they were not demanded and actually they used
So Japanese, this was also post World War II. Okay, so we have to just keep in time. So the original gangsters were Ford, but now we know that Toyota, in fact, I should mention, is actually the largest manufacturer of the cars in the world. And how they have been able to make profits and make so many numbers of cars is their assembly process or the manufacturing process. Right? Everything is streamlined and each and everything is efficient. And that's why you see Maruti Suzuki as number one in India. Right? Each and everything is optimized to certain level. and then they have the 6 Sigma process and all. I mean, you can prepare about their console. So, Bauhaus was, since it was between architecture and product design and communication design also, it was a play field of furniture design. So this is the first time you are seeing this furniture. Have you seen this furniture ever?
Schools.
So what is this material? So these are basically bicycle tubes of stainless steel. Right? It's stainless steel only. But nobody imagined that you can make a furniture out of bicycle tubes. Marcel Breuer did. Right? So this is a design by Marcel Breuer. This is also one of the timeless designs that you can see here. So not just wood and bicycle tubes, but also leather. This is leather. And leather also has a very interesting property of tensile. I mean, do you know what are tensile structures? Correct. Tensile structure. Correct. Exactly. So anything which is in tension is like tensile structure, right? So if I just kind of stretch this, okay, if I stretch this further and this cloth is very strong, I can ask anyone, and like no, if I hang it here, anyone can say it. Like, no, you have seen it hammock, I believe. So that was also the tensile principle. Okay, and you would see many of these tensile structures also. Like if you go to airport or shopping malls, you will find this tensile structure. Like umbrella is also a tensile structure. That's a very basic essential. These are some of the exercises which were done in Bauhaus, and still they are continuing in different design schools in the world. Like now this is coloring, or some vertical lines, some composition and all, right? So these are still being continued because they are timeless now. I mean, if you have to learn basics of design, this is what it is. Okay, so Bauhaus is over, and like it has an amazing impact on how architecture and design education are kind of conducted all over the world. Actually, most of the schools in the world, especially also in the global south, are inspired by Bauhaus. Even their curriculum or even their exercises are still relevant. The problems that they were doing, or even the discussions or jhagda वगैरह जो कुछ बोल रहे थे वहाँ पे ideological जगह is still being continued in all our design schools. Whether to focus more on technology or more on art, anything, be any discussion which happened in Bauhaus is still being continued in our design schools. Any question, guys? Any question? Any question, guys? That was Saurabh. Any question? Any thought? Any thought? Marks very good. Marks very good. Any thoughts? Any thoughts? तो आपस में दूसरों बहुत बातें करते हैं। अरे काम नहीं है, काम नहीं होगा। अरे क्यों ठीक है। So one student there, asked about the last phase of Bauhaus. Just to kind of remind. The first director of Boas was Walter Gropius, an architect, right? And this was also a time when a lot of Jews were being kicked out of Germany due to this Nazi movement. So Walter Gropius moved to US, okay, and he started another design school known as IIT Chicago. Have you heard this name? It's a great place for your masters. IIT Chicago. Illinois Institute of Technology. It's not IIT wala, India wala. It's Illinois Institute of Technology, Chicago. Amazing design school, right? In fact, the dean of IIT Chicago is an Indian, Anish actually. Okay, so you may consider that. But here, Hans Meyer became the director of the institute. So when the director changes in a design school, the philosophy also changes. He thought that making is not enough. Having technologists and artists is not enough. We should have some other fields also from society, like photography, psychology, sociology. And in order to understand people, in order to understand world, it's very important to understand the other social sciences or the humanities. That's why he brought in like new subjects, which had a mixed reaction. Some people received it well. Some people said no, we want the pure, design kind of work. We don't want the psychology. Why should we study psychology or sociology to become better designer, right? So now we will talk about another design school, but this design school is actually the post-World War II design school, which is HMG Ulm, right? So have you seen this piece of furniture? So what can you do with this furniture? क्या कर सकते हैं इस फर्नीचर से? I'm saying ये फर्नीचर दिखाई दे रहा है, सामने दिखाई दे रहा है, इसे क्या कर सकते हैं? और क्या कर सकते हैं बैठने के अलावा? We can sit. This is what it is. Yes. As a ladder. What else? Storage. Very nice. What? Side table. इसको थोड़ा upside down turn करें. So can it become a bookshelf or book carrier? वो जो उसका डंडा है उसको वहाँ से पकड़ सकते हैं, right? So this is also one of the iconic furniture pieces, and this is known as the Ulmer Hawker, or the Bill stool, designed based on the name of the principal designer, Max Bill, and then two more designers, and Gogello and Paul Nickel. And this comes from this particular school. Again, so Bauhaus was east and the northeast of Germany, and this was southwest of Germany. Ulm, a quiet town near the south, near a very strategic city in Germany known as Stuttgart. Have you heard of this name, Stuttgart? क्या है वहाँ पे Stuttgart? Porsche. Okay, what else?
I guess
Audi. So all the big brands are in Stuttgart. Okay. Near to that, near Ulm, a design school is initiated with a thought that politicians cannot do well for the society. It's only the designers who can think of the betterment of society. Politicians are useless. So they said that we are not going to take any help from the public money. We are not going to ask the government to fund our design school, but we'll try to self-fund and start a design school. So Otto Leischer and Inge Scholl. Otto Leischer, a very celebrated designer who designed the signages for the Munich Olympic. Everyone has a mobile phone. Search Munich Olympic signages by Otto Leischer. This is the name of Otto Leischer. Let's see what comes. Munich Olympics signage. So do you see some human figures? Munich Olympic signages. And this particular system became a prototype for all the game signages or sports signages. It is very timeless, it is very essential. This was done by Otto Leischer, right? But later. So Otto Leischer, Ingersoll and Max Bill, three friends who had certain connection with Bauhaus and design. They thought, okay, let's start a design school. They started a design school known as Kulp or Churchill Kulp. So Bauhaus का principle क्या था? That it's a mix of art and technology. Kulp का principle, it has to be a mix between art and science. So whatever we are doing, it has to be like really objective in the work. And anything that the design should, like the human design for material civilization from neither technical nor cultural tradition but from own condition. They're saying that we are not going to look into the technical part, not we are going to look into the cultural part, but we are going to look into the design part. Very ambitious philosophy. Now culture thinking and now technology thinking will just see design and then design. Right? Now one can question what is design without tradition and culture. Okay, we'll see further. Old school, very interesting and very reminiscent system of education. First there is foundation, where the basic courses are like drawing, material workshops and making presentations. In the second year, you choose your specialization. Is this what happening here? See, all the design schools, including the NID, is still following the full principles. Right? So first you do a bit of foundation design, which is like 1 year or 2 year or 1.5 years, and then you feel that you're ready, you move to specialization here, and that is you choose your specialization either in architecture or product design or communication design or film and video. And then there are certain open courses also, like some of the workshops, and these workshops would be on technologies, on ergonomics, on perception, on kinematics. When it came to India, we had one more dimension, crafts. Okay, so I'm told that there is going to be a craft a week, next week or something, somewhere. So craftsmen are coming to this particular campus. So similar kind of approach we are still kind of employing to educate our young ones. Some of the iconic designers of post World War II, like Otto Leischer, Ingersoll, Max Bill, Hans Bugelow, Thomas Magliardo, Herbert Simon, Horst Rittel, Kohei Sugiura, Bruce Archer, Louis Bossier, they were either students here or they were teachers here. Right? So they were associated, and these are like big names of like the post 1950s or post mid-century. So like in Bauhaus, there were also philosophy debates in what should we teach, whether it's mathematics or like sociology and the other subject or the external subject we should teach more, or the course of design or art we should teach more. And this is how kind of the whole this politics kind of moved there. Unfortunately, with all the politics and internet turmoil and also the funding, the school closed down in 1968. So the school ran only for 15 years, 1952 to 68, but it left amazing impression in everyday material culture. So whatever we are using here was kind of had certain old connection, and I'll show you how. So this is one of the philosophers by Braun. Have you heard this brand name Braun?
Yes.
Right? It's a very old German brand. And you can see here how they have improved, how they have employed the clean lines, a minimalistic design, and fusion of two materials. What it is plastic. Okay. Otherwise, if you just use plastic, it looks very artificial. But you just add a hint of wood, it looks a bit humane. And also there's a bit of glass or acrylic here, right? So this is one of the phenoxyls, or the gramophone, or the modern gramophone. So what's special about this thing? So this arrangement that you're seeing here is very, very scientific. Have you learned a bit of Gestalt principles?
Yes.
Right? So what are the Gestalt principles? Like, the continuity, closure, proximity. So all those Gestalt principles are employed here. Right? Again, through minimalistic approach, using Gestalt principles, they are designing the product. I'm sure you have seen these cups. So what's so special about these cups? They are stackable, they are movable, they can be washed in a machine. So ceramics are there, but industrial ceramics is like one new phenomenon. Lufthansa brand name. Lufthansa is one of the carriers from Germany, one of the air carriers done by Hotel Aisha. So not just ceramics or product design, but also bit of graphic design, which was coming from there. Ulm also tried their hand on automobile design, but they came up with supposedly ugly looking cars. Why? So majorly, if you look at the car industry's aesthetics or design is driven by desire, not by the need. Right? So we are looking for desirable options. We are not looking for the needed option. If you are looking for need, Maruti Alto or Maruti 800 is sufficient, isn't it? But why do we buy something which is like very, very superfluous? So whatever money we have, if we are super rich, we can buy a Mercedes or BMW, and so on. Why not? Right? So car industry is run through the drive of desire, not the need. That's why Ulm didn't succeed there. Because they made very rational cars, very functional cars, very rational cars. They also did bit of in the environmental design, lightings, and these lights you can find in many cities in the world. And I think this was done for Philips. Okay. So these are street lighting solutions, right? Very basic, very geometric, and very, very floral also, in a way. So I'll just skip this part. Some of the work, especially by the designer on the Dieter Rams. Have you heard this name, Dieter Rams?
Yes.
Yes. And you would see that, whatever he designed actually has influenced one contemporary corporation or company. Which company is this? Which is inspired? Braun? Braun? Yes, I mean, this is all Braun products, but Dieter Rams' design is followed by Apple. Very nice. So if you look at Apple and how they design, they actually follow Dieter Rams' philosophy. So Jonathan Ive, one of the chief designers of Apple, he loves Dieter Rams' work. And you can see that many of these products are somewhere in Apple. So if you are seeing this old iPod, do you know what is an iPod?
Yes.
iPod. So you can see some kind of connection there. This particular clock you would find as icon in your Apple phone. If you have an Apple phone, you will find it as an icon or some other phone, right? So very old school kind of work Apple does. And this is a range of products which Braun made. You can see the television or a mixie here, right? Still people copy all these images and all. Anything this Paytm printing machine or anything. I mean, everything was done at Ulm School as a consultancy to Braun. So when we compare the difference between Ulm and Bauhaus, it's very simple. Bauhaus was public funded, right? Ulm was privately funded. So there was a difference between how and what they are designing. If you remember, Bauhaus was initially designed for social housing. And who initiates social housing? The government. Right? Bauhaus' focus was on art and technology, and majorly to mass producing. Ulm was art and science, using Gestalt principles, using or evolving aesthetics through science was Ulm's decision. Bauhaus was function plus aesthetics, and this was very much evident, when we have a technologist and an artist teaching a designer. But Ulm was about functional aesthetics. Any aesthetic needs to be functional also. Bauhaus was modern, Ulm was towards postmodern. Bauhaus was around architecture. Like I said, mother or father of all disciplines. Ulm said no, architecture is another discipline, like product design or communication design or film and video. Right? So that's it. I think it's about 30 also, so I'm right on time. And thank you. If you have any question, please let me know now. In the next session, that is going to start at 2 o'clock, we are going to know more about Indian design or how design happened in India, especially in NID and IDC. Okay, two of the oldest design schools in India. Right? So, any question, guys? Yes.
भास्कर सर ने दिया Yes.